me anyway. Easter without the family was already kind of a day, but now he's not going to be with me either. And Trinity did come and spend the night, but she's going to leave and go with my daughter Candace tomorrow after church. So I've just pulled out all my stuff. I'm just going to come home and I'm going to deep clean the house, turn on some praise and worship music, and just chill out, be alone.
All right, it should show us live, but it's not.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. I tell you every week whenever that happens like that and you can't get this to work, even though we're paying big bucks for it, that it's just not meant. It's only meant here. So we're holding these people up.
No, it's meant that the devil's fighting to keep whoever comes on Facebook.
Well, we got to get it fixed then. But we don't need to linger anymore. Go ahead and bring the word.
There it is. Finally.
What did you not hit?
No, it's just finally popping up now.
Okay.
All right, I just wanted to make sure it was up and going so we could see.
Bobby says she's not going to be on long. I'm trying to hurry him up,
Who?
girl. Bobby.
Who she thinks she is?
She thinks she's Bobby. She says, hurry up.
No, we need to stay on here tonight because this is the last night I'm going to be with y'all for about 2 weekends. Like Tracy said, I got to go out of town, go down there to Mobile, and I was going to do an Easter sunrise service in the morning if y'all wanted it, but with everything going on, I'll be leaving in the morning, so I won't be able to do that. But I will, just in case you didn't get to see it last year when I done the Easter sunrise service, that's what I'm going to speak on tonight, because I don't think I've ever touched on it with the people. And I'm going to throw a little different approach into these things right now. It's not all going to be in one area. I'm gonna talk to you about Harry Potter, believe it or not. I'm gonna use them as a ministry tool. Harry Potter's about witches and wizards. Yes, we don't get along with that. But let's sit down and look at them for a minute. They were all put into houses that they wanted to by a sorting hat. And they were all put in Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin.
He knows all of them.
Yeah, believe it or not, I do, because I watched every one of these movies with my son growing up. But let me tell you something. These 4 houses always fought each other for everything. They fought for points. They fought for this. They fought for that. They fought against each other on everything they did. It didn't care. They didn't care who you were, what you were doing. If you approached them, they were going to fight you. But when it came down to Harry Potter fighting Voldemort, which was the wizard in the first 3 that he was fighting against, when it come down to him fighting them, and when it came down to him looking for help, every one of them houses were right there helping him. They wasn't fighting him. They were fighting with him to support him. That's kind of like what the Christians are doing right now. We're fighting each other. Well, this religion ain't right. This religion ain't right. You're celebrating paganism because it's Easter. Easter is a paganism. Let me tell you something. Easter is not pagan. Easter is a Christian holiday that the Christians thought up.
I didn't think it.
But it
they
come
were
from
celebrating it.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying people were celebrating Ishtar in different countries. So Christians said, well, we need a holiday around this time of the year. Ishtar was done on the spring. So Easter came out in the spring to celebrate Jesus' birth or Jesus' burial and resurrection. Was it the correct date? No, it may not have been. But that's what we celebrate. And I'm tired of Christians always fighting each other. Well, you're celebrating this, you're celebrating that. You know what? We need to come together and fight against the enemy that's attacking each and every one of us to cause us to fight against each other.
Over everything.
Yeah, over everything. So what if we're celebrating Easter on a wrong day that God was not actually resurrected from the dead? He was resurrected, so we celebrate it. Maybe it was supposed to be celebrated Christmas on his resurrection. Maybe that's what it was. Or maybe it was October, September. I don't know. But it clearly states in the Bible that if you're celebrating God, worshiping God, making God holy, it doesn't matter what holiday you're sitting in. Whether it be Easter, Halloween, Christmas, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Memorial Day, Labor Day, it doesn't matter. As long as you put God first in everything, then you're celebrating him, whether it was his holiday or not. So now, with that being said, we need to be more like Harry Potter. Quit fighting against each other and start fighting the principalities that's out here attacking every one of us. National Ice Cream Day, you're right there.
When is that? I need to know when that
There's
is.
a lot of them. There's a
Can
lot
we
of
celebrate
holidays.
that any day?
Yeah.
It don't have to be on the correct day either. We can just celebrate ice cream any day.
But I'm going to bring something to y'all today. Something a lot of people had never thought of. My mind thinks of these things. And it's not, no, you can't borrow my bike, Greg. Who do you think you are? Just because I'm gone don't mean you can get over here and ride it. But anyway, I'm going to bring to y'all, I don't know if any of y'all were on here last Easter when I done the Easter sunrise. I'm going to bring a part to y'all of the resurrection, or not the resurrection, but where he's hanging on the cross. You know, Jesus went through the crucifixion and he was beaten so bad that most of us wouldn't even be able to stand up. But yet he stood up and he carried his cross because they made him. You know, we take that very lightly sometimes when we say, are we bearing our cross? Are we carrying our cross? Think about the day that our Savior had to carry that cross. Honestly and truthfully, he didn't have to carry it if he didn't want to. He carried it because of us. So he had, you know, you see these pictures of Atlas and stuff holding the world on his shoulders. When in actuality, that was Christ holding the world on his shoulders as he carried that cross up there to Calvary Hill to be hung on it for nothing other than to wash our sins away.
Right.
But as he gets up there to Calvary, he's hung, and I don't know if he's in the middle. Bible says there was one on the right and one on the left. The one that was on his left, I believe, is the one that was kind of harassing him, so to speak.
Questioning him.
Yeah, if you're God, then get off this cross. Well, if you're the Son of God, call out to the angels.
Greg and Chuck are forming an alliance.
We can't have none of that. Brother Bubba will be forming an alliance.
Anyway, go ahead.
But You know, the one thief kept questioning everything and kept crying out to him, "Hey, if you're the Son of God, then call your angels down, save yourself, show us, prove, save me while you're at it." And the other one looks over and says, basically, and I'm ad libbing, but he probably turned around and said, "Shut up,
Mm-hmm.
dude. We deserve to be hung here. He does not." He pointed it out that, hey, what we've done, we deserve the crucifixion. But what has he done? Absolutely nothing to be up here. And then he looks at it, and then he looks at him and says, "Remember me when you go to your kingdom." And Jesus turns and looks at him with every breath he had in him and says, "On this day, you will be on my right hand side."
Today you will be in paradise.
Yeah, well, it's basically, you'll be on my right hand side. Women think they know everything.
When you're quoting the scripture, you gotta
But-
get it right.
But I brought you around to this point where he's hanging on this cross to give you a little something extra that is not in the Bible. Well, part of it is. You know, you have the soldiers down here as Jesus is hanging on this cross up here. You have the soldiers down here rolling dice, making bets about his garments, wanting his clothes, and doing this and doing that. And as all this is going on, it states in the Bible that Jesus calls out to God, "Why have you forsaken me?" And we don't truly understand that statement of why you call out and say, "Why have you forsaken me?" Because he hasn't forsaken him. He never left him. He was always there. But he was talking about not God, but he was talking about the people. "Why have you forsaken me?" Because just a week before, they're praising him and yelling, "Oh, Hosanna," coming in to celebrate the Passover. And as they're sitting there, Jesus is taking every breath he can to fight. And it took me a long time. It took me a long time to realize this. Jesus tells the Pharisees and the religious, "I will tear your church down and rebuild it in 3 days." And a lot of people that don't know the Bible don't understand that. How are you going to tear down a church and rebuild it in 3 days?
That's what they believe. They didn't understand. Like you said, you didn't understand it, like a light bulb went off not too long ago.
Yeah, that's what they believe. They didn't understand that. But the problem with it is because they were looking at a building when God says we're the bride, we're the church. He was talking about Jesus was going to tear his body down and rebuild it in 7 days, or 3 days. I'm sorry, 7 days. 3 days. Basically, he's going to be killed, laid in the tomb, and 3 days later, he's going to rise again. But as all this is going on, imagine that you're sitting there and you're down here and these soldiers are just, they didn't care. They were Romans.
Mm-hmm.
They're down there making fun, and Jesus' mother's sitting there, Mary's there, some of the disciples were there, and they're down there cussing, flipping out, having fun, making fun of all three of them that's up there, Jesus especially, because he's got the sign hanging above him saying the King of the Jews, and they're making all kind of fun of him, not even thinking about the people's feelings behind here. It's not like nowadays, "Oh, you hurt my feelings. Can you apologize now?" You know what the Romans would have said? Whatever. But they're doing all this. And Jesus is sitting there finally getting to his final breath. And as the Romans are doing this, he's thirsty. And I want you to think about what it says that they done to give Jesus something to drink. They took a sponge, out of a pail full of vinegar, held it up to his mouth. Well, Jesus wouldn't take nothing from it. But do you know what that thing is that they were holding up to his mouth? That was the Romans' way back in the day, because they had so much technology that we never had, or nobody else had back then. That was their way of back in the day when they used the bathroom to wipe their butts. They used that sponge on that stick dipped in vinegar to clean themselves when they got through going to the bathroom.
Never heard that.
Yes.
Hmm.
And I told you, I researched some of this stuff.
See, I was told that it was actually gall is what they called it, and it was supposed to be a form of medicine.
No.
Pain reliever.
Well, it had some of that in it, but the sponge itself on the stick, that's what they used to wipe themselves with.
I got you. Okay.
But yes, it had what they call sour wine and vinegar in it.
Okay.
And that's the concoction that a lot of times Romans would use to clean themselves down there.
Okay.
They were the only ones that actually had toilets back in that day. I watched a pastor on.
They had like a inside the house. They had like a pot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched
chamber pot.
Yeah, I watched a pastor, a very historic pastor, that researched all this, and this is how I found out, because I really get into learning different things that a lot of times are not talked about.
Right.
So
we just read it and then
and then it's left alone, because we read it and what we're reading is, oh, well, they did offer Jesus something, but because it had sour wine in it and it was a form of pain reliever, he didn't take it. Well, it wasn't all that either. It was because they used the sponge that normally they would wipe their behinds with.
Gotcha.
But now, with that being said, it's getting to that time. And Jesus looks down, no matter what they have all done, Jesus looks down and says, forgive them, Father, for they not know what they do. Forgive us, because we didn't know what we were doing back then. Forgive us, because they're rolling dice and betting to win my clothing. Forgive us, because they're making fun of me hanging on this cross, your son, and don't have any care in the world about the feelings of the people that they're destroying behind them. Forgive the preachers that you put in play, because they are stuck on their religion, that they cannot believe that I am your son. But as we're doing that now, he finally says, after that, forgive them, Father, they not know what they do. He finally looks up and says, it is finished. And that's when he bows his head. And when he bows his head, this will make you this will make you think about this eclipse that's coming up right now, that's going to pass through every city named Salem, which Nineveh.
It went through Salem in 17.
Yeah, but Salem was a lot of people don't know this, but Salem is a word for Jerusalem, right?
I don't know.
I think that's what they said on that thing you were playing.
Maybe.
But Salem in Greek or something like that means Jerusalem, I believe. We were watching a video on this. But as he says it's done, the sun eclipses. Because this is during the day, sunlight. And it goes dark. The ground quakes and starts breaking apart. And the rain comes in. And the back in that day, you had this area that you're allowed in a church. There's a curtain that hung where only the presence of God was allowed, and only certain people at certain times of the month were allowed behind this curtain, or they would die.
They would tie a rope with a bell around your
waist to be able to pull them back out if they died.
Thought it was the ankle.
Yeah, it might have been the ankle.
Okay, Bobby. We'll see you next week, hopefully.
Well, Bobby, look on Facebook because this will be on Facebook, and you can finish watching the rest of it when you can.
Talk to you later.
But at the time that happened, that curtain split right down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's God's way of saying, I will no longer be in the presence of man the way I was then. Mm-hmm. And he has not been since then. Can you imagine living in God's day or Jesus' day and being able to be in the presence of God, even if it was only for one day a month that you're allowed to walk behind that curtain? Can you imagine just being able to be in that presence? But back to the crucifixion. Once this was done, they had to make sure that the prisoners were dead. So they go over to the first one, and mind you, when they're on that cross, they're on the cross and they're buckled at the knee because they want you to hang like this, so it basically chokes you because you have to lift up to take a breath, and it hurts you everything you do because you got the nails in your foot. But you can only stand there so long, and then you're slouching back down. So when they went to check to see if the prisoners were dead, they took a sledgehammer and busted their knees to see if they would scream out. And if they screamed out, they would stay there longer. But when they busted their knees, it made it where they could not stand up and get any more air. So it basically would suffocate them right then and there. But they done that to the prisoner on the left and the prisoner on the right. But when it came to Jesus, one soldier decided he wasn't going to take the sledgehammer and bust his knee. He was going to take that sword and stick right in the side of his rib. And you know, this is where it gets interesting. Because I know you've seen it in the movies, The Passion of the Christ or whatever. When he sticks Jesus with that spear and that blood just comes out, it goes all over him. Talking about being washed in the blood, he was the first man that was ever washed in the blood. Can you imagine what that soldier went through at that exact time? Because, you know.
And he was the one that changed.
Yeah.
He got saved.
It changed his life. Because I can only imagine, and there's no words on this, so you don't know exactly what happened. But I can only imagine when you stick that spear up in his ribs and that blood just came down, I can only imagine that soldier at that exact time seen everything that Jesus had went through and everything that was to come in that matter of seconds. Because that was the blood of God, is what it was. The human side of God washed down on him. And I can only imagine if that was me all I would ever be able to do is drop down to my knees and beg right then and there,
Right.
forgive me, my God, forgive me for what I have done.
Right.
It's just like the who sings the song I may have been the one that drove the hammer into the
Casting
nail.
crowns.
Yeah, where it talks about I'm I'm the one that hung him there and stuff like
I
that.
think that's casting crowns.
Yeah, but that soldier, that particular soldier, just it almost makes me feel almost what he would feel because just thinking about what he went through, I would be bawling like a baby once that blood hit me.
Yeah.
Because you know when that blood hit him, you know he felt everything that had come to him. Not meaning that Jesus or God was trying to make him feel that because of what he did, but it's just how powerful the blood of the lamb is. Because he told us in this book right here that we have the power he did. But that soldier felt every ounce of that power when that blood washed him. There's a saying out there making a joke about if a mosquito comes up and bites me, I want him flying away, saying there's power in the blood. I think that soldier walked away saying there's power in the blood.
Mm-hmm.
There's power in the blood. He walked away from being a Roman soldier, which was very high regard anyway, because if you were a Roman soldier, your life was taken care of. You had house, land, whatever you needed.
Monetarily, you were taken care of.
Yeah, you were taken care of. And he turned around and walked away from that and says, I'm going to follow Jesus that just hung on that cross. Because when I stuck him with that spear, I seen and I felt the ultimate sacrifice.
Mm.
That one left to save the one that just speared him. He gave up his life for that one. And then the one after that. And then the one after that. Until eventually he's covered all of us. So when you go to Easter service tomorrow, I want each and every one of you, when you go to Easter service tomorrow, think about that soldier. Think about that soldier that stuck that sword in the side, in the rib. The rib that God took from Adam to form woman. To eventually Jesus would come from a woman that had a prostitute in his bloodline, had a murderer in his bloodline, had an adulterer in his bloodline, but yet Jesus was perfect. So it doesn't matter what you have in your family history, you can break those chains.
Chuck says, what is never lost on me is that he chose to go through all of that for us.
Yes. And
The ultimate sacrifice.
I talk about this all the time. Jesus' ministry wasn't a ministry. Yes, he ministered to people. He turned people's lives around. But his ministry was from one prayer table to another. As he went along, he prayed. He'd go from this place of prayer to this place of prayer. And in the middle of the prayer, he'd preach to people. He'd tell them about God. He'd tell them about his Father. He'd heal people.
You have church.
He'd have church.
Yeah.
And that soldier, can you imagine if that soldier had any kind of ailment? At that time, he stuck that spear in his rib. How quickly that ailment would disappear being washed in the blood.
Greg says I have a different look on the part when Jesus says, "Oh God, why have you forsaken me?" I guess he's writing
Oh.
what he thinks is different.
I can just imagine that soldier being middle-aged or something like that. And maybe, all the battles he's been through, maybe have his shoulder bothering him because he's slinging a sword so much or holding that shield up to keep himself protected to go home to his family. And when he took that spear, he went to do like this, when he went to do it, he had that arthritis in his shoulder and it hurt him, but he still done it. And as soon as that blood hit him, he probably stood back going, wow, there is power in the blood. Because he would have felt it just like that. The healing power in the blood. The power of whatever that soldier seen. That God had, I have a feeling that God, as soon as that blood hit him, that God showed him everything that had happened and everything that is to come. They say Prophet Elijah and Elisha and Elijah, they could foretell the future. I guarantee you that soldier knew the future after he got washed in the blood. That's why he changed his life. And let's not forget about the man that betrayed him. Judas. Judas didn't have a problem in the world to betray him until he actually done it. And how would you feel? You're sitting at a table and you're with all the disciples and Jesus, and you've done this and you've made sure nobody has seen you. So nobody knew what you were doing. And Jesus sits there and tells you that you're going to betray him for 30 pieces of silver. You're going to betray him with a kiss. You broke bread with me, but you're going to betray me. What do you think was running through Judas's head? How does he know this? Did somebody tell him? But yet,
Can I answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Judas betrayed him the night of the Last Supper.
Yep.
So right before that's what got him arrested.
That's what started the crucifixion.
I have a different take on the whole thing with Judas. I don't feel like, and this is just my observation or the way that I feel like it was interpreted to me. I don't feel like that it was more like he was mad at Jesus, or he just maliciously thought, okay, I'm gonna set him up and I'm gonna get paid for it. And so I feel like that maybe an opportunity came up, maybe somebody from the government come and said something to Judas, because I think Judas was the one that was part of holding the purse strings, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe that they maybe, it's like, hey, we'll pay you if we can get him in the right spot, because we've just got to stop all of this controversy. We've got to put him in jail for a few days, stop all this. And Judas didn't think, okay, that's fine. I'm just not gonna, but I don't. I will get him locked up, but I don't want him to die. I don't believe that he honestly thought that. And then when it got out of hand and he really saw what the Romans were going to do to him and the Sanhedrin were going to do to him, that's when he felt guilty and he tried to give the money back.
Yes.
And I think that he got hoodooed too. Not that, I'm not taking up for him.
I really believe it.
I believe that he thought in his heart he was trying to do right, but it backfired on him.
I really believe the same way. I believe somewhat that Judas possibly.
And the enemy just used that whole situation.
I think Judas had some doubts to him being the Son of God. Maybe not major doubts, but had some doubts. And that got all flipped around. But like I was fixing to say, and she pointed out a good point there. But remember this. Judas killed himself because he couldn't forgive himself for what he had done.
Words, remember, watch our words.
I'm sorry. Unalived himself.
Right.
Because he couldn't forgive himself for what he did to Jesus. But before he ever did it, when Jesus told him what he was going to do, Jesus forgave him right then and there.
Mm-hmm. And see, it's almost like he gave him permission, because whenever he dipped his hand in the bowl, he told him, go and do what you must.
Yeah, go and do what you must.
Yeah.
But Jesus forgave him. If Judas could have forgiven himself, I really believe that he wouldn't have died and or unalived himself and went down there. He would have been in heaven. And first of all, why'd you knock it out? I've asked you not to do that.
I just muted him.
I asked you not to do that.
He can still hear us.
No, he can't. Once you mute them, they're out. Period.
I didn't block him.
When you mute them, it kicks them out of that live.
Oh, I'm sorry. He's back.
Okay. Because, first of all, Easter is not a pagan holiday. Easter is a Christian holiday. It's been turned around with eggs and bunnies and stuff like that. But the holiday that you're thinking of is Ishtar, which is a spring holiday that is a pagan holiday. Christians made Easter to celebrate the resurrection of Christ. Look on your history, and we'll pray for you.
Finish what you're saying. You let them.
But anyway.
Get you sidetracked.
I really believe that Judas would have been in heaven if he could have forgiven himself. But just like everybody, we talk about this all the time. We allow unforgiveness to control our lives. When you allow hatred, unforgiveness, let's use this for an example. Tracy got upset with me today, and she had every right to, because I raised my voice at her earlier this morning. But is she still upset with me? Has she not forgiven me? No, she hasn't. Sometimes it takes longer to do the forgiveness. But if you don't forgive, it wells up inside and it eats you alive. And it does exactly like it did with Judas. The enemy can turn it around and use it against you. And then you're no longer following Christ. You're following your unforgiveness and what the enemy is leading you into. I tell this to a lot of people a lot of times. You know, you use examples. Oh, I've forgiven, but I won't have nothing to do with them. And then, okay, you don't have to have anything to do with somebody you forgive. You can walk away from them. But the difference is when they come into your life, say by accident, or let's use it as a family member, and there's a death in the family, and you've forgiven this family member years ago, but you have nothing to do with them, and now there's a death in the family, and they come up to you and say, hey, that stuff years ago, I'm so sorry about. And then you turn around and say, hey, it's okay, I forgive you. Can you believe she come up to me and told me she was sorry about stuff? I don't want no part of that. That's forgiveness that you haven't let go.
Nobody can see you.
Well, they can hear me. That's all I wanted to do. They could hear me. But that's forgiveness that you haven't let go, that you truly have not let go. Because if you truly let it go, it wouldn't bother you that they walked up to you being nice and apologizing.
Yeah.
Because I've had the same forgiveness issues with somebody else that it took me a couple of years to finally truly forgive them, and being able to sit down. I've told y'all this story before. I sat down at the table of my enemy, and it wasn't for me to gloat. It was for me to forgive, to truly be able to forgive. So Christ hung on that cross. Do you think he forgave every one of us? Or do you think when we get up to heaven, he's going to turn around and look at you, hey, I hung on that cross for you. What you going to do for me?
No, he didn't do it for gain.
He forgave us and forgot. As the song says, you tossed it as far as the east is to the west.
Yeah.
And honestly and truthfully, just now saying that, I was thinking, East America, West America, that's a pretty long way. But God threw it east to west. That means it keeps going because the world's on a rotation. So as far as he threw it from east to west, it's going east, it's going to west, but it's not going to stop because the world keeps rotating. So it keeps going. That forgiveness that he gave us will never come back if we truly accept it.
Right.
Now, with all that being said, we're going to say that's the end of it. I hope everybody has a happy Easter. And I hope tomorrow, the ones that do go to the church and the ones that get into Easter the way that I love Easter. So many people say it's a pagan holiday. Okay, say it what you want. But it is a Christian holiday, and I've researched it to make sure. Now, is there a bunny in Easter? No. It's just something we've done over the years that became Easter bunny, Easter eggs, but you know what? I turn it around to my grandbabies, and if y'all watched last, no, we didn't even record that. Next time we'll have to record it. But I turn it around to my grandbabies, and I take them the egg, and I show them the egg, and I tell them, I said, this is a sign of new life. I said, this is a sign, we were dead. When this chicken is inside this egg, when he's first, before he ever gets dropped down to hatch, he's dead. And once the chicken lays the egg, that is the form of the new birth, the transition of the new birth. And then as the chicken comes out of it, it's just like the resurrection. He is coming out of his old life and into his new life, just like we do as Christians. When we accept Christ, we die, we bury that old life and become new life in Christ. So I use the egg to show that and give God the glory when it comes to Easter.
And the lights inside are Jesus is the light of the world.
Yeah, and the lights are inside are Jesus' lights of the world. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. That's what we do. Our grandkids know. Little man, Turner, last year, not this past year, but the last year, we were going to sit down, because I sit down every year, tell them the same story. And they know this. But Turner, last year, was ready to go Easter egg hunt's what he was ready for. And he looks at Nanny when we're getting ready, and she goes, Nanny's got to tell you a story. He said, Nanny, I know about Jesus. I don't have to sit here and listen to about Jesus. I know about Jesus. And she goes, yeah, but let Papa tell you the story like we do every year. It's a tradition. Okay. So our kids know about Jesus.
Comment really.
Yeah, our kids know about Jesus. Our grandkids know about Jesus. But every year, it's the same thing. We tell them time and time again. And now I started the new tradition this year of reading them The King is Born. Because I always sit down with them Christmas and tell them the real story of Christmas. But was it Christmas that he was born? No. But just like I said with Easter, it's what we celebrate his life. So I sit down and I take my book out, and each one of them have one of these books. And my oldest granddaughter's with us this weekend. She actually took the hard copy out yesterday and read through the whole thing again. I'm so touched that they love this book so much like that. But every year I read this to them. Starting last year, it's going to be a tradition every year. And in fact, I have a video of it with me sitting down there doing it. And that's something that in my heart I wanted to do. And I love telling our kids.
That's good, Jack.
What?
He's quoting scripture.
Oh, I love telling our kids, our grandkids, what God's done in our lives. Now, I haven't told our grandkids, because they're a little young. I haven't told them everything that I've done in my life that God saved me from. And once they get older, I'll tell them the story. I won't keep it from them. I'll tell them the story how I used to drink and how I used to do things that Papa shouldn't have done. But still, God came in and saved my life. I was just like that soldier down there that stuck the spear in him. If I hadn't have got washed by the blood, I don't know where I'd be right now. Did you come out?
Just for a second.
Oh. So, just remember, when you wake up in the morning, first thing I want you to do in the morning when you wake up is say, the stone was rolled away. The stone was rolled away. He's no longer in that grave. And let me tell you another thing with Easter. a lot of people don't know this. Crap, I hate this. Hold on a minute. TikTok's got this new thing you got to do every so often.
Yeah, because it's been an hour. Gotta do it again. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Just gotta make sure we're still there.
All right. But let me tell you another part of Easter. Back in that time, you know, they talk about when you walk into the tomb, when Mary and them walked into the tomb the Sunday morning and seen that Jesus wasn't there. His clothes were thrown on the ground, but the napkin that covered his face was folded and put down neatly. And the reason for that, there's a reason behind that. And a lot of people don't know this story. Why would you throw your clothes on the ground in a pile and fold this napkin and put it on the stone where my head rests? Well, to tell you that, I have to tell you this little story. When people sat down and ate at dinner, their servants or whatever stood behind them and waited till them to finish to remove their plates and stuff. Well, when the masters and their guests were sitting there, they could be sitting there talking and never get up. Well, the way that the servants knew if they were done or not, if they just placed their napkin in the plate, they knew they were done. They can move their plate. But if you take the time to fold that napkin and lay it in the plate, it told the servants that, hey, I'm not done yet. I'll come back to this in a minute. I'll be back. That's what the napkin in the tomb folded where Jesus' head lay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that means.
Yeah.
I'm not done yet. I'll be back.
That's right.
And he's coming. And it's sooner than we think.
Yeah. I've often said this week to my clients, because we've all been talking about the events that are just lining up biblically for his return. I mean, we're not predicting a date or anything like that because no one can do that. And if they do, they're out of line. They're wrong. And so, but wouldn't it be amazing for him to come back the way that he left on Resurrection Sunday? And I believe it was at daybreak. Wouldn't it be awesome to see a sunrise service with us ascending to heaven?
Mm-hmm.
How awesome would that be? And so I'm ready. You know, some people, I have been guilty of saying this in the past, you know, oh, I'm ready to go to heaven, but not today. He could come back right now and I'll be fine. I feel like that I've done my job. I've raised my kids. I've told them about the Lord. I've raised them in the admonition of the Lord. And so I've done my job. And if he came back right now, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. They may miss me, but I'll be fine.
They ain't going to miss you. They're going to be with you.
I pray that they all will.
I believe Greg's going to be with me. I hope Randall, with the questions he was asking me a couple of weeks ago, I hope he's searching that he knows he will be. But
oh goodness, that is a long movie.
What?
The Charleston I can't read.
Heston?
Yeah, the one that's the Ten Commandments.
Oh yes.
The old one. Yeah.
And I tell you, Tracy and I watched the I don't know if any of y'all know who Duck Dynasty is. But we got into watching Duck Dynasty because they were a Christian family. And they were hilarious. Watching the Duck Dynasty things, and every episode they would finish praying over their meals. And we watched the show about Kay and I can't even think of his name.
Mhm.
The husband, anyway. We watched their movie, and it was an absolutely amazing movie.
The Blind.
The Blind, yeah. It talks about how he was actually, believe it or not, he was a great guy growing up when he was chasing Kate, and they got together. Uncle Si, yeah. He was a great guy, but this one particular guy that they open up to, they're sitting in the blind getting ready to duck hunt, and he's telling the story to this guy, and this guy is the one that introduced him to drinking, everything, and made his life change. And then God got a hold of it and changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine? I mean, I can. I was in the footstools of hell. And he left the 99 and come after me. Why? I don't know. Maybe it was because my childish brain, being able to write these children books, being able to write Brother Bubba's redneck Bible stories. I don't know. But obviously God seen something in me that I didn't see. God seen something in me, and y'all see something in me that I didn't see. Because we're 35,000 people strong following TikTok, following us on here. We may not have 5, 6, 7 of y'all on here every Saturday night, but we have 35,000 people that scroll through my TikTok and see the uplifting stuff that I post, or a video about God, something God laid on me. 35,000 people. That just, it puts me at awe. 35,000 people found me interesting enough to follow me. But it wasn't me. It was God. Because without him, I'd be nothing. I'd still be stuck in that bottle, drinking, partying, living of this world, and trying to figure out why I have this big empty hole inside of me that God fulfilled.
Do you have any prayer requests?
Do we have any prayer requests for tonight? Well, for one, we need to keep Gigi in our prayers always. She's still battling what she's battling with. Oh yeah, absolutely. The people that need it. I just love Greg, here's to you, my mega tea.
Are you gonna be able to sleep?
Oh yeah. If not, I'll get some sleep tomorrow sometime.
Yeah, he's going to work instead of church with me.
Can I call and explain my view?
He just wait till after we get off, because we gotta pray. I gotta go downstairs. He really could wait till after church. Drive up there. I believe he could. You might get there late, but you could.
No, because I won't have enough time off to get to work the next morning.
Okay.
You don't, but they do. It's my job.
Easter.
Yes, we're having Easter now. Do you want me to explain the egg to you?
No.
All right. Anybody else want any prayer requests?
Why are you nervous?
Who's nervous?
Chad? Why are you nervous?
Don't be nervous, bud. You're an absolute
I can't
wonderful
wait to get it,
photographer.
because then I gotta go to Hobby Lobby and get me a new frame, and I know exactly where I'm gonna put it, and then I'll have to send you a video.
I've got to get together one Saturday where we can have everybody on here doing their testimony, because Chuck's testimony is going to be one of the best.
Yeah.
I don't even see Tammy on here tonight either.
She's not. They've been working a lot. All right, we'll go ahead and let's say prayers. I need to get ready for tomorrow. I have to be at church by 9:30.
What's the word?
Well, because it's Easter and just want to make sure everybody gets in place and all that good stuff.
Where's she gonna put me? Oh, she's not.
You'll be in the truck.
I'll be in the truck. All right.
You better be watching online.
Hey, y'all keep me in y'all's prayers tomorrow too. I got a 5-hour drive to. It's not actually Mobile, but it's our Mobile, Alabama terminal that I'm going to, and then drop there, and then I'll go to the hotel, stay in the hotel, and I'll be there, down there for 2 weeks. So next weekend you won't see me. The following weekend, if I can get back early enough, we might have a live that weekend. Then again, Tracy might hit me over the head, being used to being without me for the next 2 weeks. She might hit me over the head and throw me out the pasture.
Might get used to it.
Yep, she might get used to it. So y'all keep me in your prayers too.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Dear Lord, thank you for this wonderful evening. Thank you for giving me what you wanted me to give them this year, Lord, because last year we done it at Easter sunrise service and we didn't have a whole lot of people on there, Lord. I was happy to tell the story that you had given me to give to these people, Lord. Lord, put your hands on Gigi as she's still going through what she's going through, Lord. Put your hands on each and every one of these people tonight, Lord, even the ones that didn't ask for prayers, but Lord, you know their heart. You know what they need. You know what each and every one of them are looking for, Lord, and what they need as far as healing, financial healing, medical healing, whatever it may be, Lord. Put your hands on them. Give them the peace and the love that they need. Put a hedge of protection around each and every one of them, Lord, tonight. Put your hands on my family as I'll be gone for the next 2 weeks. Keep them safe and bring me home. Get me there and bring me home safely, Lord. Back to my family where I belong for the 2 weeks that I'm gone. Lord, put your hands on each and every one of these people that are in here tonight, their families. Put a hedge of protection around each and every one of them. And we ask all this in your blessed name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, tomorrow, remember, if you're in what?
And Greg says, then I can take the bike.
If you go to church tomorrow, remember, think about that soldier. Think about what he went through when he got covered in the blood. And I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. What you bring that over for?
I was okay.
Oh. I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. Remember, God loves you. Tracy and I love you. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. I might post some videos on TikTok or something like that. But I probably won't be live for a little while until I get back. And if I make it back early enough, that day we'll go live that Saturday. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a happy Easter.